Someone holds up their phone. "You have to see this," they say. They press play on a clip from last night's Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jimmy delivers a punchline. The studio audience erupts. The person next to you chuckles, and inside you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel a sudden, quiet irritation. You force a polite smile. But the truth is, the entire spectacle makes your skin crawl. You hate the polished desk. You hate the manufactured warmth. The meticulously timed laughter just feels wrong. The easy assumption is that you just lack a sense of humor. People might call you a cynic. They might accuse you of taking things too seriously. But this aversion usually isn't about an inability to laugh. Some people intensely recoil from the rehearsed cheer of late-night television. Yet these are often the same people who laugh the hardest in private. What looks like a refusal to have fun is actually much more complex. It is a quiet defense of your own psychological autonomy. To understand this, we must look at cultural pressure. Sometimes a piece of entertainment becomes mandatory. Everyone is talking about the exact same viral moment. This can trigger what psychologists call reactance. It is an unpleasant, deeply wired motivational pushback. It flares up when we feel our freedom of choice is threatened. Experts consider this a form of hype aversion. The culture demands that you find something charming. In response, a part of your nervous system quietly rebels. The canned laughter isn't an invitation, it feels like a constraint. This friction is closely tied to optimal distinctiveness theory. We constantly try to balance two competing drives. We have a deep human need to belong. We also have a need to stand out as individuals. Sometimes a cultural product becomes entirely ubiquitous. It feels like the default setting of society. When that happens, our need for differentiation spikes. Retreating from the mainstream isn't always about being a snob. It is a psychological mechanism. It preserves the boundaries of your own identity when the crowd gets too loud. We must also consider the architecture of the humor itself. The psychology of a joke relies heavily on the benign violation theory. This suggests that a funny moment must violate a norm. However, it must do so in a way that feels harmless. Late-night talk shows walk a strange, contradictory line. Sometimes the humor feels incredibly safe and corporate. It fails to violate any norm at all. You just feel bored. Other times, the humor relies on relentless, one-sided political satire. The joke targets a group very aggressively. The violation no longer feels benign. A joke might cross your internal moral boundaries. If it lacks the cushion of psychological distance, you won't feel amusement. The natural human response is actually disgust. There is also an unspoken emotional tax at play. Late-night television is built entirely on parasocial relationships. It sells the illusion of intimacy. The host looks directly into the camera. They welcome you into their space. For many, this is a comforting anchor at the end of a long day. But for others, this manufactured warmth feels invasive. Self-determination theory points out a key fact about human nature. Our well-being relies heavily on authentic relatedness and intrinsic motivation. A show asks you to invest emotional energy into a one-sided imitation of a friendship. This can feel deeply exhausting. You simply prefer to guard your relational energy carefully. But sometimes, you simply prefer a different kind of media diet. You might rely on selective exposure. You just want to find entertainment that quietly aligns with your own worldview. Disliking mainstream television doesn't make you inherently superior. Behavior can always have more than one cause. A show might feel like a heavy burden of hype to you, but to someone else, it might be a source of genuine, simple relief. You may have felt a strange, isolating guilt. It is hard when you do not enjoy the things everyone else loves effortlessly. It might help to reframe that resistance. Your aversion is not a flaw in your personality. It is a boundary. It is a protective signal. It shows that you prefer your joy to be spontaneous rather than scheduled. You want your connections to be reciprocal rather than broadcasted. You are not broken for turning away from the screen. You are simply holding out for a different kind of laughter. You want the kind that cannot be prompted by an applause sign. You are waiting for joy that is sudden, unscripted, and entirely your own.